Hey,
Hey,
I'm Vinny
Video
O'Brien
Brian.
from Ecommerce. I just stole Rick's thunder there and jumped in with an intro he was about to do. So sorry about that, Rick. Joined today by Michelle Meyer. I'm Matt Torrenzano from CapTech Consulting. Delighted to have you along with us, guys. Good morning, good afternoon. What time of the day is it for you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, it's 10 a.m. So not too bad right now.
Over
Nice.
on the
And
East
Rick,
Coast.
Yeah,
Rick, what
same
about
same
you?
here. Great to meet everyone. It's also 10 a.m. here.
Nice. I hope everyone is fully fed and caffeinated. What we want to do today is talk in around B2B commerce, one of the biggest emerging areas of commerce in general, and an area we're seeing a huge amount of growth in. We're thrilled to be joined today by both Matt and Michelle. And we've spoken a little bit already about specific areas of B2B commerce. But one of the things in our pre discussions that I thought were really interesting was just how diverse and how large CapTech is and the different service areas that you guys go across. So maybe you could give us a little introduction to yourselves and CapTech as well, and we'll introduce ourselves briefly for our listeners too. But maybe Michelle, you could kick it off.
Yeah, sure. So CapTech is a 28-year-old technology consulting firm, and we're really focused on delivering what's next for organizations. And a lot of what we deliver is deeply rooted in understanding the power of data and technology and how we can leverage those two things to help drive our clients' businesses forward, whether it be to optimize revenue or improve processes. We support our clients in a number of different ways. We've got 4 different practice areas at CapTech: systems integration, data analytics, management consulting, and customer experience. So you can put the combo of those 4 practice areas together, and that helps bring our solutions to life for our clients. And then I've been at CapTech for 7 years. I've been in technology consulting, software consulting for 15. And I oversee our industrials and transportation portfolio. And Matt and I have worked together on a number of our private equity portfolio accounts. And we've encountered a number of B2B e-commerce projects. Matt?
Yeah, certainly. Hi. Matt Torrenzano. I've been with CapTech about 7 years. Been in the industry 20. Started my career as a developer and kind of graduated up that path. I've been working now as a kind of a principal architect, solution architect, mainly in digital with e-commerce. The past 6 years have been a lot of private equity within the B2B and B2C space. Doing large scale transformations, usually upfront with the technology strategy, and then using my kind of tactical developer background, I'm always kind of trying to lead on the actual execution to make sure it's successful.
Amazing. Thank you. For our listeners, I'm Vinny O'Brien. I'm a consultant and creative producer with RMW Commerce, working with Rick and the team for a little under 2 years. And Rick, would you like to give an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, my name is Rick Watson, CEO and founder of RMW Commerce. I've been in e-commerce for, it feels like over 25 years at this point, going back to 99, starting in the marketplace space. My background, similar to Matt's, is also in software development, and then kind of moved more to the business side as my kind of career progressed. I've been at a number of companies, including Channel Advisor, Barnes and Noble, heading up their marketplace, CEO of a software company. It was a marketplace and dropship solution called Merchantry, which helped sell, and then head of product for Pitney Bowes Global E-commerce Group, which powered eBay's global shipping program, and then founded the consultancy about 6 years ago, and work across manufacturers and distributors, but also direct-to-consumer businesses, mostly in the middle and upper middle and enterprise markets, with digital transformation, digital channel strategy, both on organization, leadership, um, essentially what does a great digital business look like, and then how do you grow it. And so how we work with a lot of system integrators and agencies is a lot of companies don't even know how to talk to a system integrator for a while because in private equity there's a new investment, there's a new leader, and then there's a lot of existing people who don't understand what the new strategy needs to be, so we help them kind of in those early phases.
Nice. There's a lot of talent, a lot of brain power, and a lot of experience in the call today, which is amazing. It's going to help things move along quite well. Something Michelle said at the start, I think, kind of sets a tone for the sort of conversation I want us to get into. And one is the volume of change that you guys have seen over that period. So before we jump into B2B, the pace of change has accelerated, the type of change has, but there's something in your business model as well, Michelle, that it's quite interesting. It's that you're using data and analytics to drive future solutions and future developments. Can you take us back a few years to maybe help us understand and arrive at the point at which B2B commerce is at today, and why there's been maybe a slower transition into it, and where we find ourselves in 2025?
Yeah, and Matt and I have discussed this over the last week as we've been preparing for this podcast. But I think what we've seen is in B2C, consumers have the experience that they want and need. Over the last 10 years, we've just seen a shift in the B2C experience delivering the customer expectations in a way that's really different, and B2B just hasn't caught up to yet. And so I think what we're seeing is the opportunity to support these manufacturers, these distributors who have grown their companies because they've had really good products, really good sales teams, but they really haven't, leveraged the power of data and technology to get their organizations to the next level. And so that's a lot of what we're seeing right now. It's, hey, we're doing really well financially. How do we continue to scale and grow over the next 10 to 15 years? And a lot of what Matt and I do up front with these clients is come up with that data strategy and help them really lay those foundational pieces that they need in place in order to, again, scale and grow.
And you said that they're in a good position financially, which is kind of different to D2C, where it's kind of trying to catch up with yourself to generate revenue, to earn profitability, to go on to the next phase of investment. So how are manufacturers like that making these choices, Matt? And with your technical background, technology's caught up with people quite a lot. So I can see how that transition to the business side, similar to Rick, becomes a big skill set and a big advantage for someone with your background.
Yeah, I think it's been really valuable to be able to translate the technology and kind of be that Rosetta Stone over to the business and vice versa. I think a lot of the B2B clients that we're working with, especially in the mid-market, are on those aging technology solutions, and it may just be Excel that they're working with, and trying to bring them forward into the data world, into the technology world, is a challenge, because you have to explain the value proposition and the investment that's going to take for injecting new systems or new processes that they're just not used to. They've been doing their B2B business probably high touch, high human connection, and now they're trying to introduce another digital channel, try to compete with customer expectations from the B2C side, which are vastly different and a lot higher than what you would traditionally get on your B2B.
Yeah. Do you find that the business understands what their goals should be for their new digital channels, or are they treating it more like we need to do this, so we're going to turn it over to IT to help us execute this, but we don't know what's going to happen until it is kind of delivered?
Matt and I talked about this too. What I've seen is a lot of these middle market companies that we're working with, they do think this is IT's problem to figure out, to define, to develop, to roll out, and also to hold people accountable and ultimately adopt the solutions that are rolled out. And that to me is the wrong.
Is that fair?
Approach it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. A lot of pressure on our IT folks. So we've been talking about how we encourage our clients to break down those barriers, work across business units, create that shared accountability. I mean, there's a culture aspect here too that has to be in place in order to kind of shift the way that they've always been operating.
So maybe talk us through that point of arrival, that someone comes to your door and they sit down for that first discovery meeting. What frame of mind are they in, Michelle? How are they presenting a problem to you guys?
Usually it's the C-suite has a hypothesis of where the problems are in their business. And then we prove through data analysis, either they're correct or they're incorrect. And it's usually we usually take a slightly different approach based on our findings. But what's been really helpful is when we, get into the operations department, let's say, and they're like, we've got a lot of highly manual work. Can you help us figure out where to automate? We'll look at their email volumes, their call volumes, and to Matt's point, we'll find those high touch areas that are super manual where we could probably start to figure out how we could build a solution and automate. So we typically start with that data analysis, and we either debunk their hypothesis or validate what the C-suite thinks is problem areas.
I think also like when you're starting to craft that strategy or that direction, understanding like where their goals are and their aspirations and business vision or technology vision is really important, because you can, there's some guardrails that you want to follow and kind of tweak. And so you're on the path that their expectations align versus you're providing a solution that maybe they're not mature enough to hit yet, or they just don't want to go that channel. And so it's kind of getting an understanding and a layout of kind of where they see. And so you can have these glasses on, these these certain colored glasses to make sure that how you shape it, aligns with how they feel that they need to be successful.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I think a couple of things in there, starting with you, Michelle. You mentioned the word thesis. The C-suite has a thesis, which is generally a guess. A lot of times it was told to them by someone else. Do you find that thesis is based on what? Their investors, FOMO, fear? Like, where does it mostly come from?
I feel like bottom up and top down, right? I feel like they can hear it from a private equity firm. Hey, we need to double in revenue, or we need to cut costs, and you have 250 heads in this department. And I know we can cut because you've had that many heads for 15 years. So I think some of it comes from the top, and then, other areas, it's those, folks that are on the front line. You play a game of telephone. If there's one interaction that is sort of, explained internally, that could become something that the C-suite is like, oh my gosh, this is a 5-alarm fire. We need to fix this. So it's a little bit of both.
So where's the customer in all this? Like, of all those explanations, I didn't hear the word customer.
That's right. And Matt, you and I were chatting about that before this too. Feel free to chime in on this one, because I know you play in the customer space a lot.
Yeah, I think the voice of the customer is certainly important, both whichever channel you're on, whether it's a B2C, whether it's B2B. I think you're going to hear the voice of the customer, and what makes good solutions great or average solutions great is to ensure that your user adoption is high, that the customer's been heard, so that you are tailoring your solutions, your approach, so that it resonates with your end audience, whether that's internal focused and internal sales teams, customer service, or it's externally focused to your end buyers or vendors.
So on that point, I've kind of got a question then that's around you're in there to solve a business problem primarily, and in a lot of cases the customer is not at the center of what the desired outcome is. It's almost like it's like a retrospective. The customer benefits for the following reasons, and now we've got this new capability, or we can serve them in a new way that we didn't really think about before. You've almost got this responsibility that is borderline ethical or moral in that kind of solution design, because you're going against culture, you're going against gut feel and all the things that these businesses have been built on. Is that an accurate statement, or do you feel it's reasonably close to the truth?
I mean, I think there's sometimes a disconnect, especially in like maybe an investor-led transformation versus maybe a family-owned transformation, where investor-led's much more financially focused. And so, it's key to, I think, bring in the users, and whether that's identifying a segment of users that want to help you, want to reach out and make change for the good because they're loyal to your product, loyal to your business, or whether it's customer surveys or identifying your champions within your own company that are at the forefront or the front line. As Michelle said, maybe it's the head rep of a customer service call center, or maybe it's one of your tenured sales reps along with the junior sales rep, to kind of get how each one has their different perspective on how they interact with the customer, because each one of those touch points is critical to the success of the business.
Got it. And then to take a cue from there, You kind of mentioned family owned versus venture backed investment at this point. Where is the kind of the manufacturing company at this point, Michelle? Are they like generational handovers, and next generation doesn't want to take on the business because it's too traditional or not digital enough? What is the status quo there between that generational handover and new investment coming?
Yeah, I think we definitely see a difference in the PE led versus the family led companies. I think one of the things that we were thinking about is the fact that in the family owned companies, the leash is a little bit longer in terms of maybe being able to try and fail and learn a little bit along the way. Whereas with private equity backed companies, there's an investment timeline and there are commitments that, you have to make within a 3-year window usually. And so I think with family owned companies, they might not be able to kind of think strategically. They might not have that digital expertise. Typically, we see them hire externally and bring that in-house to be able to think about what the next, 5-10 years could look like. Whereas private equity owned, you're getting that pressure from investors, so you have to deliver on your commitments right out of the gate.
So is that forcing a different type of product or project design because of these external pressures and the shorter timeframes you got to work within?
Definitely, our teams have to take a different approach to the private equity led transformations. Matt, I'll let you chime in here. I know you've got a lot of experience driving some of these forward.
Think for the private equity side, that as Michelle mentioned, the timeline's a lot shorter in the runway for actually delivering value. I think in the private equity space, it's a lot about efficiency, it's about optimization, it's about technology enablement and technology optimization. And so we see that the initial 6 months, 12 months is around making sure that those foundational systems or foundational processes are in place to then usher in the next round of work and innovation. I think when we come into some of these mid-market private equity-backed companies, they're on aging platforms, aging technology, and disparate data, and it's really hard to make decisions when your data is everywhere and no one understands it or trusts it, and it's very hard to deliver great customer experiences or one-click rebuy when you're on an old technology platform. And so I think the key for PE space is to get straight to foundation, get that core going so that you can just, expand in all directions from there to deliver value.
And are there category pools that is more suited to Matt that you've seen, or is that a broad barometer of how the industry is right now?
I think it's a little bit of a broad brush. I think everyone we talk to seems to be fighting with an ERP or 2 ERPs, or maybe it's an M&A, and so you have 5 ERPs and 2 e-commerce systems and 2, 3 3PLs. I think there is a little bit of a pattern, especially in the B2B space, where their stack hasn't had the injected capital or change that is needed to compete with the last 5 years of AI and with the major B2C competitors, where customer expectations, they want Apple, and you're a mid-market parts distributor, and there's a huge gap, and it's just growing.
Right.
So just kind of taking those examples as well, I'd love you to demystify a couple of or debunk a few myths for us. And one of them is, does every manufacturer need an ERP system in the way it's classically been set up? I'm suggesting.
I think centralizing your core enterprise data in a single location is key. I think we find that when data, whether an ERP holds financial data, orders, system tracking, inventory, having a single location is and that golden record is really what's important. And whether you can move that somewhere else and it's not a traditional ERP, I think it's making sure that you have a source of truth that people can find reliably and feel good about that data is really at the center of it. And so if it can be delivered elsewhere, that could be fine. I think it's just making sure that the data is a source of truth, that it's highly valuable, and that it's accurate.
not to change the question, I'm going to ask an extension of that. But typically, B2B companies have not looked to commerce platforms to provide these solutions. And now their eyes are being opened up to the fact that they can get much broader, more capability from commerce platforms. And that seems to be something that is of interest amongst your client base. How has I suppose the eye-opening phase of it gone within the B2B industry? Has it been well accepted that commerce platforms can do that, or is there still a veering towards traditional legacy technology providers?
Yeah, I think it's hard. There is an aspect where, especially in the B2B space, where a lot of the sales are flying to some location and speaking with the team on site. It's a lot of high touch human connection and picking up the phone. And now to put your trust into this digital platform, this second extension of your sales arm, is kind of scary for a lot of these people, where they don't trust that the technology is going to be analogous to what they're picking up the phone. And oftentimes it's not. And we find that when you're picking up the phone, you're able to do pricing solutions or talking loyalty and get those incentives that may not be programmed in right away to a traditional B2B online channel. And it takes an evolution. It takes a little bit of baby steps to start implementing something that could resonate alongside of traditional sales.
And I think too, we talk to our clients about how you can use your existing ERP as like the scaffolding. Like there are some aspects of it that you can keep in place while modernizing your, e-commerce channels. And so we talk a lot about how you can still, keep that legacy system in place for specific tasks while working to automate other areas of your business through different, more modernized tech stacks.
Yeah, adding in here, a lot of folks I find view their e-com platform as sort of the front end of their ERP a little bit, because there's only so much they can do in there, and those are usually big projects and they're not very flexible. Or if they are, in theory they're flexible, but in practice, the amount of dollars you have to invest in making that happen is super hard. So do you find that things start with a certain department? Like, you had mentioned, Michelle, going back to this, like the businesses and that involved in your work to try to align the business, but it's to start with like service and support as like the lowest of the low hanging fruit, because now a customer can get because we're talking about commerce, but also we're just talking about, in some sense, like basic digitization, really. Matt in the beginning mentioned Excel, right? And so if you're sending an Excel file, like here's your tracking number, versus logging in or getting a text, that's quite a different thing.
But it still works.
Right, exactly. I think from my experience, we typically partner with the operations department, IT, marketing, and then I think one of the things that, for the clients that are doing it right, they're thinking about how they can incorporate product and data into kind of their IT org, and that's where you start to think more about the customer. But typically, we're partnering with operations, marketing, and IT.
Mm-hmm.
And culturally, you've mentioned the word culture a couple of times, Michelle. Is there this retention of institutional knowledge within those departments and leadership? And that must be quite a time-consuming area to overcome when you're going through these projects.
In terms of the change and the willingness to change, or?
Yeah, you're probably closer to that, but the willingness probably needs to come first, right? And then it's extracting the knowledge after that part. And it feels a little bit like you're trying to put the cart before the horse, which is incredibly difficult, which is present a technology solution, then ask for all the information to guide the direction of it. When as in a normal circumstance, you'd be given all that information and you can build your solution out from there. And it feels like this is going in reverse sometimes for you guys.
We typically, start with discovery so that we do understand, the business problems that we're trying to solve. And then we get into the technology solutions. I think we encourage the executive team to not talk about solutions at all, right? Like if you have a problem with inventory and having too much inventory on your shelves, well, let's talk about that. Let's not talk about how AI can help you with that. And so I think that's what we encourage in kind of the early days of our partnerships with our clients is let's have those conversations about what business problems are we trying to solve. But then I think to, answer your question on culture, there is this shared accountability that we have to expect from the executive team. And then that needs to kind of trickle down to their managers and their departments as well as it relates to these large transformations. And so that shared accountability comes in place when CapTech kind of runs our change management expertise in parallel to the solutions that we end up delivering for our clients after the discovery.
And then,
go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, and then from below the C-suite, right? So your department heads, your managers, and the staff. I'm sure Rick, you've seen this as well. Like transformation is hard, and everyone has their day job, right? And so these teams are running lean. They're just getting by with, let's say it's a smaller shop with 2 IT members. You can't go ahead and say Income Technology first and say, I'm going to pitch you this really strong custom solution that you're never going to be able to maintain or carry, right? So I think understanding, being empathetic at the teams on the ground, that usually they're already highly taxed and working at 150%. So there is this kind of this human aspect to delivering these solutions where you have to figure out, be empathetic on your calls to the internal staff and figure what helps them with their day-to-day jobs, and whether it's manual process, maybe they're just checking spreadsheets for 6 hours. Trying to get at that root can help drive their buy-in and say, hey, we're going to make your life easier so you don't have to wake up at 7 a.m. to send inventory feeds to a third-party system.
I was going to ask that question around the skill sets that exist in some of these firms, and how advanced or otherwise is it? Because it feels like, from what you're saying and some of the experiences that I've had, that the experience is not there. And as you said, everyone's already maxed out in terms of time, and they're trying to get to these projects. And now you got private equity investment coming in and saying, well, you've got to do more and you've got to do it quicker and you've got to do something you've never done before. It's a complete misalignment in many respects. That must mean that this cross-functional team that CapTech has becomes really valuable then to the client, right? That's something that obviously you recognize 28 years in business and quite a large team. How involved can you guys get at that point, or do you want to?
Yeah, we like to be involved, we want it to be successful when we leave. And so, we are making sure that the adoption, the buy-in happens from the C-suite down to the developer or call center rep, making sure that solutions we build or implement or integrate are ones that align with the adoption and the principles that are efficient and effective for the teams that use them. And with smaller skill sets of teams, that's going to impact your enterprise architecture decisions. It may be that you're going to start buying platforms instead of building, and recognizing that you can't have 5 custom solutions. You can have 2 off-the-shelf ones, but then knowing that those off-the-shelf systems don't always align to your perfect business rules that you've created over 20 years. Like that special shipping rule, that special pricing is not going to fit in a standard, SaaS platform. And so there's a little bit of that trade-off that I find is probably one of the hardest things, is getting that business complexity and that legacy secret sauce of the business translated to an off-the-shelf platform in a way that can be successful.
Is secret sauce a kind word or a
market differentiator?
Or it's just something they started doing 25 years ago and don't know, and no one who's left there knows why it's being done that way.
Yeah.
I just have visions of Scranton in my head and the office going on.
Right, selling paper.
I think to add to Vinny, we like to embed ourselves within our clients, and so their vision becomes our vision, and it's sort of that, again, shared accountability. I think we're different from other consulting firms where we want to be in the trenches with our clients, and problems that they're solving are the problems that ultimately we're helping them with too. So we got 1,000 consultants across a number of different projects, but I think that's the CapTech way, is to really our clients tell us, you feel like you're one of us, like you're one of our employees, and we love hearing that.
So I want to kind of fast forward a little bit, Michelle, and take it more onto the growth side of things, because you've been in that space for quite a while, and growth is not something, or growth marketing is not something that's talked a lot about when we think about B2B commerce. And I want to start from the point of view of private equity first. What are the growth objectives when there is PE investment going into a B2B firm, firstly? And then I suppose what I'd like to explore a little bit after that is, how are those experiences delivered, and the vision set out for those are probably my three phases of this part of the conversation. But maybe starting out with the first question.
Yeah, I think I see two things largely as it relates to the growth strategy for these companies. It's mergers and acquisitions. That's typically a part of their roadmap, as well as product differentiation, right? Like, can we innovate and bring a new product to market, or can we acquire a company that has, reaches a specific customer segment that we haven't reached before? So those are the two kind of growth areas that I see. Matt, do you have anything else to add there?
I think alongside product is, me being a tech guy, is bringing the technology up to speed of where, especially some of these mid-market shops that that are opcos, opportunity companies, they just don't have that technology foundation. And so, Michelle, when you talk about product and reach, you're going to need that the process, the business processes, and the technology behind that to be able to enable the reach of the product that they're aligning to on their investment thesis or deal tool.
So the strategic placement now of better technology becomes an asset and a lever all of a sudden when it comes to these M&A deals, right?
Yep, it's an
absolutely.
enabler too. Yep.
And especially with M&A. Sorry, go ahead, Vinny.
No, go ahead, Matt. Go on.
I'll say, especially in M&A, we find that you have a lot of, maybe 5 ERPs. And so now it's like, do you try to go through a costly ERP modernization, which no one really enjoys doing? Or is it trying to bring and stream data down to a unified data platform, right? Where now it's less intrusive, pulling data out across acquired companies. And then you can make informed decisions with this cleansed golden record of data to help inform decisions, sales, customer service. That's where we see a lot of is in the M&A is like, let's not change an ERP because the ROI just frankly isn't there in the investment. And so let's pull data out and make some better decisions there to then provide value to customers.
Yeah. It's like move the way of working out of the ERP. And as you introduce this new technology, I mean, you start to get into basic topics which aren't so basic, like data-driven decision-making, basic data literacy. I mean, there are kind of two approaches here. Different people or versus existing people. Do you find that organizations are investing in upskilling their staff to use these new platforms in the best way possible, or are they hiring new people from the outside and shifting their orgs?
It's catch-22 because if you don't upskill the folks that have all of that tribal knowledge, you're really missing out on obviously leveraging that tribal knowledge. So I think we try to encourage our clients to upskill as much as possible. And then CapTech is also a part of that. So if we're rolling out a new, API platform and they don't have the experience in-house, we're constantly trying to do that knowledge transfer. I think hiring new talent, what I've seen is that they rely on CapTech for those 3 years where that investment is in place instead of going out and hiring, a bunch of new talent. Now, if there's a missing product leader, then they likely will bring that product leader in-house so that they can, make sure that they're tailoring the experiences to the customer. But I've seen a mix of both.
Yeah. So this goes to adoption, Vinny. I know this was definitely on your mind. Matt, you were going to say something?
I was saying there's definitely, usually we see it like one new, fresh perspective, right? Like sometimes these companies that have been doing the same thing for 20 years, their leaders have been doing the same thing for 20 years. It's always valuable sometimes to hear that outside perspective and coming in that's bought in, that can work with the existing team to kind of say, okay, like I've been over in this company X, I have experience in a similar or tangential area. Let me add value, add new ways to do things from a business or technology that could immediately inject, value to this company. So we do see sometimes a change, maybe one or two of the high level leaders come in that have a little bit stronger push towards the business sense.
Rick, did you have a question on adoption that you wanted to get to, or you want me to?
No, it was, I think it's kind of buried in those previous questions, and like once the tech is in place, what happens next? And it sounds like one of the big value adds that's maybe underappreciated that CapTech provides is upskilling and the change management required post launch, like meeting launch of the tech itself.
Yeah.
And like, okay, we're going to have a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting, and what data are we looking at? What decisions we're trying to make? Are those things that you help with as well?
Yeah, I think a recent company was a parts distributor, and it was a data maturity project, bringing in 5 or 6 ERPs to a unified data system for cross-sell products, upsell products, replacement, substitution. Bringing in champions in each of the sales divisions along with their like leaders helped us say, okay, what's the most problematic, for example, set of product catalog categories that you have today? What's the most value there? And getting some on the ground champions to be able to be your voice that kind of adds an echo chamber to the rest of the team is really valuable. So when we're looking at prioritization or what functionality or what data to transform or modernize first, having those champions in-house really helps gain adoption and momentum, because they know what's best for their company or best for their teams, because they're living it day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting close to kind of the back end of this discussion, but I'm keen to try and understand, where is the future, and where can the vision go when it comes to B2B? Because it feels like, because they've been a bit of a laggard in technology adoption, that they can learn a lot from where B2C and D2C has gone wrong. And Michelle, I see you nodding there. Hopefully that's in agreement. So what are those areas you see that D2C has gotten wrong that B2B can really learn from and start getting right? Because if you're doing such huge transformations, the impact is quite profound, really, when it comes to the client base you have.
Yeah, I think in B2B, I'm just trying to think of, I think it's, to what we talked about earlier, it needs to be about the customer first, not about the deal thesis or about, the hypothesis that's coming from the C-suite. And so if you're rooted in building products that customers want, or digital experiences that customers want, I feel like the rest will sort of fall into place. I think we talk a lot to our clients about how do we make self-service kind of the way of operating at your company. And so like figuring out those channels that we can drive customers to self-serve more easily. And then, what are all of those things that your internal employees are pulling manually that can be automated with the right data and analytics. I don't have any specific examples of what D2C has done poorly. I don't know, Matt.
Michelle, I have a question. Yeah, I mean, especially from the AI world. Michelle, I know you have a few clients right now that are, looking at AI has been that buzzword. How can B2B, how can manufacturing leverage AI very intentionally in a valuable way and meaningful? That's not going to be a distraction, right, or a disruption, or something that maybe there's been a buzzword or solution that the B2C customer gets that they're like, I don't like this chatbot, or I don't, I want to pick up the phone to hear someone. I don't want to go through seven numbers on my phone. So what about AI side?
Example. That was a great little little nugget. I feel like, the chatbot experiences, I don't think have gone as great as they could in B2C, but I think with the rise of agentic and LLM, I think there is a real opportunity to create a better experience there. And then Matt, you said one other thing. I didn't touch on it, but I think it all just comes back to, what business problem are we trying to solve? And I think, if it's pricing, if it's inventory optimization, if it's, just trying to drive out those manual things that can be, powered by AI. That's what we're trying to help our clients discover right now.
And if I'm reading between the lines here, and if I'm in private equity, when I hear AI, I hear cost savings.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, ultimately, it's like you use the word manual, Michelle, and manual means hands-on keyboards and money. And so reducing cost per transaction as the business scales, particularly if you're adding multiple divisions, you have, private equity, especially in these niche industrial sectors, you're trying to roll up a segment, right? Like to get to a huge percentage of market sales during this acquisition. And then if you have to scale revenue linearly with costs, it's not going to work out very well. So
there's also something in there, Rick, that you've talked about a lot, which is personalization at scale. And I think in the D2C world, we've tried to do that ad nauseum now for 10 years and really got it wrong. For a lot of B2B companies, there's a limit to the number of customers they have, but you can give each of them a really personalized experience. And that's about designing good process and good workflows, I think, to support the human aspect that is there. So I think AI lends itself to traversing that for the first time ever, and really can deliver some useful experiences in that personalized space when it comes to B2B customer management.
Absolutely. And I think, you traditionally think about personalization, maybe it's tailored messaging or audience groups or certain content. But in the B2B world, that could extend to, forecasting or doing predictive analysis on orders, right? So if customers in the B2B world like ship times to be reduced, there's no back ordered. If you can manage your inventory a little bit better by predicting shipment sizes and what your warehouse, that's key. And then looking at spend, you can start looking at rebates and different contract pricing and tiered pricing that boost up that loyalty to say, hey, my organization, this distributor is really listening to me because they're offering me a discount on products that I commonly use, or a rebate, or they've got the ship times down from 3 days to 1 day. I think so. There's definitely some opportunities to use AI to help improve the supply chain and make that resonate back to that personalized, that personalized experience specific to each business that's buying from you.
Yeah, funny. I was at a conference yesterday, and it was a TV reseller, and one of the major brands around the world. They were saying that they have to claim the rebate on every single unit that is ordered, and if they don't, it's left in the ether. So those days are gone. Matt and Michelle, we're kind of close to the end, and I just want to kind of get to closing out this really, really helpful conversation. It's been hugely insightful, and thank you so much for both taking the time. But in the next 12 or 18 months, what is the outlook for continued development in the B2B space? What are the sectors that you guys find are going to be really exciting for you, focusing on in the manufacturing or industrial technology space?
Michelle, you got that one?
You go for it and I'll chime in.
I think what's exciting for me is playing up with the game against the outside factors, right? So you're trying to compete with sometimes economic factors, market factors, margin that you don't have control of, and so trying to have enough flex, have enough foundation to figure out the business, the technology, or the people solutions that are going to help insulate and drive you forward and emerge successful over some uncertainty. I find that pretty exciting, especially at a per client level, to understand that this client's business revolves around ultra thin margins, or this client's business revolves around manufacturing processes here. How can we come out successful all together as a team? And the technology is kind of in the back burner, where it's really like the human element, the business, the people that are making them successful in light of some difficulties is what excites me.
Yeah, and I think, with the increase in tariffs across the globe, obviously there will be an interesting shift in this space to diversifying manufacturers, producers, et cetera. And so we're already sort of seeing the impact of that. And I think Companies are, to Matt's point, they're probably going to have to operate on thinner margins, and they'll have to get a little bit creative. And I think what better time than to use digital channels to engage with customers than the next 12 to 18 months. So I think there's real opportunity in this space. We're seeing it firsthand for our clients, and super excited.
There might be a shift. Go ahead, Penny. I was saying there might be a shift also for, traditionally a lot of these e-commerce platforms, bringing it back to e-commerce, are revenue shares where, fixed licensing, everything seems to be rev share these days. And going back to maybe a fixed license cost model can help predict costs outward. So we may see just, trying to figure out, as Michelle mentioned, the margins, is to figure out solutions that are, you can predict out your numbers year over year versus trying to, as Ricky said, kind of like scale your costs at the same time is not going to work linearly.
Mm-hmm.
I love the confidence and calmness you both just deliver those answers with. I wish you could do the nightly news. We'd all be in a much better place. So
We'll be
thank
fine.
you both. We'll be fine. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's cool. And for those who listened earlier on when there was mention of Rosetta Stone, that was there before Duolingo. Matt was just showing his age. But I'd just like to thank you both for taking time out today and beforehand and all the discussions that we've had. It's been a hugely interesting discussion. So Matt and Michelle, thank you so much. Rick, thanks for joining us. And hopefully we get to talk to you guys over the months and years ahead.
Thank you both.
Thank you guys.
All right.
Have a good
Thanks
one.
a lot, guys.
See ya.
Cheers.
Cheers.